Welcome back to another episode of Psycosmos. Today we wanted to talk a little bit about something that's more positive but also comes with a little bit of a negative connotation. Unfortunately, Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball, passed away about 10 or so days ago. And this is something, as anime fans, clearly, with all the figurines we got up there, this is something that kind of struck our hearts a little bit, so we wanted to actually make a cool little deep dive into the esoteric secrets of the Dragon Ball series, because there's actually a lot that people don't know about. For example, most people know that Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, especially the latter, Dragon Ball Z, is there's a lot of death and transcendence that is involved in the series. You have Goku, the main character, who dies multiple times and it gets brought back to life, most of which is through the power of the 7 Dragon Balls anyway. But then there's also other characters like Vegeta, and Vegeta also has his own arc of dying and coming back to life as well. So there's tons of different ways that we could extrapolate on this, but just fixing in on the character of Goku anyway, he's based on a wide variety of different things, but the main inspiration of Goku is actually Sun Wukong, which I know Rich knows a ton about because Journey to the West is one of his favorite books of all time.
Yeah, definitely check it out if you haven't read it. There's like a few different abridged versions out there because it's a very long book. But that's the original book that had all these episodic, like, flavor, villain of the month, villain of the week type adventures that Goku gets into. And even the name Son Goku, his full Japanese name, that is just the Japanese transliteration of the Chinese name Sun Wukong.
Yeah.
So, and you got other stuff like he originally had the power pole, a magical, mystical pole that was able to extend and retract at his will, just like Wukong had. Mm-hmm. You have him riding the Nimbus, which, just like Wukong had, he had something that was called the Cloud Somersault feat that he could do.
Which is just an analogy for higher ascension and spirituality. He's able to fly through the air.
Exactly. And just like Goku, where, especially in the Japanese version, because in the American version, they kind of make him a little bit more like Superman.
Yeah, well,
a little more of a goody-goody, I'm here to be a hero. But Goku in Japanese version is more interested in the fight and in bettering himself. And that's kind of aligned with Wukong, too, because Wukong starts off as very kind of evil in some senses and very selfish, and he's only about his own personal ascendant to get powers, but that's still tied to discipline and constant training and everything, just like Goku starts off as he's very rough around the edges, to put it mildly, but the point is through training and dedication you ascend to like these higher forms and everything, and that's reflected through his whole journey throughout the show, where he starts off as some little kid being trained by a woodcutter man, and then he ends up fighting in a tournament against gods.
Yeah, and also the analogy, of course, of cutting off the tail. That's a big aspect, especially in the later stages of the Dragon Ball series, the earlier sagas of the Dragon Ball Z series. It goes Dragon Ball and then Dragon Ball Z for everybody who doesn't know. And so the cutting of the tail is more of an analogy for the relinquishment of the animalistic mind, or the monkey mind, or the monkey brain. Even when the Saiyans come to visit Earth in their episodic saga, where Vegeta and Nappa come and they're trying to like destroy the Earth and everything else, they also Vegeta gets his tail cut off as well. And what it really represents is an analogy of destroying the lower carnal mind, the animal side of spirituality, and then of course after each character gets their tail cut off, they ultimately ascend on the sagas that follow. So it's a really interesting kind of story. The other thing too to keep in mind with all this is the kind of the alien narrative, where these are people that kind of come from the sky. So these people are already like awakened already. That's why they have the ability to go Super Saiyan, where they have the yellow hair, the blue eyes. The blue eyes, of course, and the yellow hair, they're representative of higher spiritual awakenings. The yellow represents the solar plexus, and the blue eyes would represent like the throat chakra or the sky that is above you. So even though Goku has like brown eyes and brown hair, he's able to transcend, and his hair grows yellow due to his willpower, which is based in the solar plexus, and then his blue eyes would be very, very similar, akin to something like Hinduism, where they have blue-skinned gods, and that's because the sky is above you. So that's like the whole analogy that kind of goes behind that. But there's also the 7 Dragon Balls, which has its own meaning as well.
So the 7 Dragon Balls correspond with the 7 chakras in the body. And so through going and collecting each one and taking steps to master each Dragon Ball, you finally get your wish. And so that's kind of like the internal journey. You conquer each chakra, you align yourself, and then you get your wish.
You awaken the dragon, which I think you were saying.
Yeah, even in the original, because he's known as Shenron, but Akira Toriyama was really big into a lot of Chinese stuff, specifically like Chinese like martial arts types movies. Like he loved Bruce Lee. He apparently said that for Jackie Chan, he loved Jackie Chan too. He was like, if I ever do a live action Dragon Ball Z, I got to get Jackie Chan to be a young Goku. No one else could be young Goku. But so the original name for Shenron in Chinese, it's Shenlong, and that's actually 2 words you can break apart. And Shen is they're called the 3 treasures in Qigong and internal alchemy. So you have Qi, your life energy. You have Jing, which is like your essence, kind of like your sexual energy, similar. You inherit it from your parents. You only have a certain amount. And then you have Shen, which is your mind, but it's not like intellect mind. It's more like spirit mind or like consciousness or something like that. But so that's Shen, and then Long is just one of the words for dragon. So if you break it apart, he's literally the spirit dragon. That, like Tyler says, you go through your spiritual centers, you go through the Dragon Balls, and you awaken and summon the spirit dragon.
Which is very similar to Kundalini awakening, Kundalini rising, any of those types of concepts. It's probably much more analogous anatomically in the body with the celiac ganglion. Celiac means, it comes from the Greek word koilos, which really just means coil. So it's like a serpent, and most of the time in the show, I shouldn't say most of the time, but a lot of the time in the show, they'll go to Kami's Lookout, which is, their like elevated platform in the sky where they're able to like look down, and they have all these friends that are living in like these high places because they're spiritually ascending as well. And so the analogies are definitely there, but the celiac ganglion is really what's responsible for a lot of this like Kundalini activation. It runs all throughout the spine. It's linked into all of your organs, and it really just means like coil. So it's all coil based. And so the serpent, the dragon, is, he rises up out, and then he says, give me whatever the hell you want, I'll grant your wish. And a lot of the time, most of the time they use the Dragon Balls, especially earlier on in the series, they're just wishing for people to come back to life, or they're wishing for immortality or something along those lines. So it's a really cool analogy of self-discipline and self-mastery, which is something that Goku and later on Vegeta represent as like characters. And also Vegeta, speaking of which, he has his whole arc of overcoming his evil tendencies, or his more malicious tendencies, I guess you could say, and making personal sacrifices to save the Earth or to save his family or what have you. And Vegeta is now one of like the most loved characters because it's just cool. But
people love arcs.
Yeah,
they love a good character arc, man. They really do.
It's the transformation, like you were saying before. He transforms from the evil man into the good man.
That's right. Yeah. And so it's a duality
he
there.
He conquered his shadows.
Even in like a lot of ways, he gets some of like Wukong's like more negative traits. Like Akira Toriyama put some of those like more negative traits of Wukong into Vegeta. Like in a lot of ways, Vegeta comes across as like the early Wukong. It's like Wukong's like he's not like a good guy.
Yeah.
It's through a lot of stuff that he has to go through. Goku's much more of a good guy. But even like I was saying in the beginning, even after the fact he's a kid, I mean, even in Dragon Ball Z, Goku has repeatedly let people stay alive, not out of any sort of like mercy or it's wrong, but because I want
to fight you again.
I want to fight you again. Yeah, it's like he's a little insane, But that's because his motivation is and part of the reason why he always wins out over Vegeta a lot of the time is because he wants to be stronger for the sake of not just being stronger, but for like beating himself.
Yeah, and like, protecting others too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's like I feel like that's kind of like almost secondary because like again, like in the English version, he's much more of like I need to protect everybody, but in the Japanese, he's like I just want to be strong.
Yeah.
Like Whis asks him at one point, he's like, what's all this for? And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I just want to be strong. He just wants to be better, and that's like, and it comes with it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, he makes him the strongest possible person ever, who just constantly he's like, oh, I found a limit, not anymore. But on the other hand, he can sort of be blinded by everything else, and like everything becomes a competition with himself.
Yeah, and speaking of Whis and Beerus, Beerus specifically is based off of like an Egyptian cat. They obviously have a wide cast of characters that have an Egyptian influence, which is very esoteric in and of itself. And the other ironic thing that I was thinking about too is most of Wukong's power and his immortality comes from the story where he eats all of the peaches. Right, and
that's a big part.
That's a big part of it. Well, peaches are fruit, and all of the characters in an ironic twist are named after vegetables. So it's almost like Akira Toriyama was like, I'm just gonna shift like this one little detail, and now Goku, which is Kakarot, named after carrots. That's why he wears orange. Vegeta is just
Also, it's a
Broly's broccoli.
It's a Chinese monk thing too.
Yeah, of course.
But
yeah, and
also
the orange represents desire in a lot of ways too. So it's Goku really represents that desire of wanting to overcome and conquer. And the funny thing too is orange is also a color that is reflected in the sexual chakra, right? The sacral chakra, right? And so, but the funny thing is Goku's like completely oblivious to the sexual advances of like his wife or anything like that.
That's one of his big differences. I feel like Akira Toriyama was like, wouldn't it be funny if Wukong had a wife? That'd be so funny. Right?
Yeah,
that's like,
and
that doesn't happen in the books.
And Bulma and Chi-Chi's like milk, which would be more analogous with the breasts, and Bulma is like, I think it's panties. I think her name has like a play on panties. So it's literally the two female characters are named after like boobs and ass, which is just like, which is ridiculous. Like the whole thing is just very, very funny. But
you know what's another weird, just like a funny thing difference between them. Wukong's whole thing, his whole powers, is magic.
Yeah.
Goku doesn't do any magic.
Well,
aside from the staff.
Well.
No, but
I mean beams and shit.
I mean in the Dragon Ball universe, Akira Toriyama has made it very clear that's not magic.
It's energy. It's
that's ki.
Yeah.
That's life energy. It's chi. That's like, and he even has like later, like actually no, like even before Babidi, he had like that weird tiny creepy witch lady. I can't remember the name of it, with the crystal ball.
Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo.
No, before Babidi.
Oh, Bibbidi. Wasn't it Bibbidi?
No, canonically, yeah, but I mean before Bibbidi or Bobbidi existed, as a twinkling in the eye of Akira Toriyama. Back in Dragon Ball, there was she's the lady who shows up and brings back Frieza too for the Tournament of Power. Little witch lady with the crystal ball.
I remember. I remember her name.
Point being, there was magic early on, and Akira Toriyama was like, "This is not magic."
Yeah.
I know he's shooting a magic beam. It's not magic, guys.
Yeah.
That is a different thing.
Yeah.
And it's like Goku is no magic with the exception of the power pole,
and
that goes away.
And the Kamehameha wave is taught to him by Master Roshi, who's the turtle master, and the turtle oftentimes reflects the moon, which is something that when the Saiyans have their tails is a big weakness for them. So it's almost as if Goku, as a child, growing older, getting his tail cut off and relinquishing that animalistic mindset, he learns the mastery of the turtle hermit, the moon sage, in a sense, to conquer those animalistic tendencies so that he can master his own energy. And the moon is a huge esoteric, planetary object that has to deal with conquering and mastering that type of energy too. But the last thing we should probably detail before we ramble on too long about this is the transformations. Because I already mentioned he goes Super Saiyan against Frieza for the first time, and he gets the yellow hair, he gets the blue eyes, but that's not the end of the transformations. He's got a triplicity in the Super, well, depending on if you like GT or not, which
it's canon now.
It's canon, but it's arguably whatever. He really gets to that third stage of the Super Saiyan level, and then there's also Super Saiyan 4. Right, there's like Super Saiyan 4.
Super Saiyan 4, and then it sort of resets with God. That's a good way to think about it.
Right, it kind of resets where Super Saiyan 4, he looks like Wukong. That's like his most Wukong.
I will say, it looks very cool
form. That's his most Wukong looking form in the show out of any of the series.
And he becomes more animalistic.
And a jokester and a trickster.
Yeah, he's
right?
like, I just can't hold back in this form. And you're like, that's it's kind of cool.
Yeah. But then when you look at the extension of what they did after all of that, they have the red Super Saiyan God form, which they like completely gloss over. It's almost like they don't even care, but it's a reset. So you have the red base form, which would be the red chakra at the bottom. They've already mastered that yellow chakra, the solar plexual, and then they ascend up to the blue, which would be like the throat chakra. And now finally, the two, actually I guess three if you want to consider Gohan as well. He's got his beast form, which is kind of like silver and purple, but Vegeta's new ego form is purple. Goku's new Ultra Instinct form is like this white, light, rainbow kind of ish form. So they've now gotten to this point of ascended mastery, and then Akira Toriyama passes away. So I find it kind of poetically beautiful in a sense. You know, it's like he finally got them to the point of where they need to be in order to basically screw up anybody that they want, you know. But yeah, the transformations definitely hold their own esoteric secrets in and of themselves as well. So
I mean, if you just go back even for like 3, because like for the first 2 it's more it's good, don't get me wrong, but it's more or less the same thing. It's rage. It's like a righteous form of rage through an evil inflicting like a horrible bout of suffering on you, specifically through like a loved one. So that's how it happens with Goku for the first Super Saiyan. Vegeta's a little bit of a different story, and for Gohan, it's the same thing for when he goes from 1 to 2. Was like my main point. But 3 is like a little different, and if you go watch 3, it's awesome. Specifically when it goes into the shot, when it goes into like Goku's eye, and he sees his Ozaru form, and then inside that is just him and his little tiny baby, and then like
there's a lot of deep
stuff there. But it is awesome.
Yeah.
That whole thing, and then the explanation he gives about how to find that power, it's kind of vague, but he gives it to Gotenks, so he teaches Gotenks how to become Super Saiyan 3. Apparently it was good enough though, because they nailed it. But yeah, that's like one of the best like esoteric representations of him going through the transformation process that's in that series. So definitely check out when he goes Super Saiyan 3 the first time. Also, it's just really cool. Just really, really cool.
It's really cool.
And God bless Sean Schemmel,
right,
the voice. God bless the voice actor of Goku in the English one, because he tore his lungs apart for us for that scream.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And maybe the last thing I do want to mention too, because I just remembered this now, is the enemies. You know, the Red Ribbon Army is kind of like the Nazis in the show. That's like very early on in the original Dragon Ball series. You have Frieza, who kind of represents this like racist overlord. You have Cell, which represents like a eugenist.
Mercenary Tao.
Mercenary Tao.
He killed the dude with his tongue.
That's true. Yeah, well, there's a lot of craziness. And then you have Boo, which is like this pink blob that starts off as like this childlike innocence and grows. It's funny because Boo is like the most innocent, but he's like this big fat guy, and then he has this middle stage of Super Boo, which is kind of like somewhere in the middle, and then finally Kid Boo, which is actually looks the most childlike but is actually the most maliciously evil. It's almost like it's inverted in a sense. And those are like the main staple enemies, and then of course, you know, regular Boo comes back and he's a good guy now. But then the show kind of has gone into this trajectory of having characters that represent things like Jiren. He kind of represents like this alien life form that doesn't understand love or friendship or anything like that, and then through fighting he recognizes what that looks like when Goku and Frieza team up on him at the end of the tournament. Spoiler alert, whatever. But point is, yeah, it's like the whole entire series is just, it's a staple and it's beautiful, and it's something that we grew up with when we were watching Toonami as kids, you know, just like most millennial kids did back in the day on our big tube TV boxes, which most kids today don't even know what the hell those are.
I didn't even have a remote.
Yeah. No, that sucks. You had to actually like sit there.
I had to sit and click through with the buttons on the TV.
We're going to commercial.
Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, but anyway. Anything else you guys wanted to add in? I think that was pretty much covered it. Yeah.
God bless you, Akira Toriyama. I've seen a lot of people saying their pieces, and I feel like now that's kind of died down. Because we don't know the man. There are people who knew the man. He was their family, their loved one, their sensei. And that's beautiful. So, God bless you, Akira Toriyama. I know you're up there in Otherworld. I hope it's awesome up there. And thanks for all the work that you did and all the joy and everything that you created. And the fact that there was such a vacuum when he left, it's really sad. But it's kind of beautiful that in a way, like, it brought a lot of people together to at least agree on one thing, and it was honoring this man and his work and what it represented.
The Mexican cartels did a ceasefire.
I heard about
that. It's
like,
like they.
That's impressive.
That's impressive. Yeah,
it's a beautiful thing. People respect dedication and work and quality across. Doesn't matter where you are, or where you come from or what you're doing. It's like when the game recognizes game.
Yeah, that's right. And honestly, without Dragon Ball Z, there probably wouldn't have been anywhere close to the amount of inspiring other animes or series or people even working or getting jobs doing what they love, making art and storytelling, which, you know, is a very important part of what makes us human. So yeah, lots of love to Akira Toriyama. Rest in peace, and we love each and every one of you guys. Drop a comment down below. Did you like Dragon Ball Z? Do you not know what the hell that even is? That's totally cool. We love you guys very, very much, and we hope that you guys keep shining and moving forward, just like Goku and everybody else. So take care, guys. We love you.